Hi, welcome again. Apologize in advance. I'm not going on a whole lot of sleep this morning, but I did want to go ahead and do a hopefully quick lesson on how to make lessons. I got some requests for that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is for anybody who doesn't want to necessarily go out and spend a lot of money on curriculum, for anybody who's interested in thematically integrating some schoolwork for their kids, for people who are just, homeschooling for the first time, whether it's because of COVID or because, you've been wanting to do it for a while. So I am here to sort of help make this whole thing a little less daunting for everybody. So the first step in lesson planning is you want to know what your goals are. How do I know what my goals are? Well, there are a variety of sources for that. Here in Texas, we have standards called the TEKs. There's also the National Common Core standards. When I was homeschooling my own kiddo, this was a really great resource for me because as I got my teaching credential, there was a huge emphasis on this gentleman named E.D. Hirsch. In fact, to get your multiple subject credential, you had to pass an exam called the MSAT, and it was pretty much all based on the skills and knowledge of E.D. Hirsch. So who is E.D. Hirsch? E.D. Hirsch is someone who believed in believes in cultural literacy. So that means, by the time you're an adult, you should have certain base knowledge, a foundation, to have an intelligent discussion, to know about certain things in history, to just, have this baseline of information. So what E.D. Hirsch did, and I bought everything in the series here. I went by what grade my kiddo was in. These are really great books. So they're a good starting point, and they cover every core subject area. They've got poems in here. They have math in here that a first grader should know, by the end of first grade. They've got, short stories in here. They have math concepts, social studies, all of that is in here. So, if the only thing you do is read the book with your child and, do some of the activities in here, you're golden. So, this is the easiest way to go. I did my lesson plans, based off of E.D. Hirsch. You can look online if you want to go another really easy route here. You can go online and there's a website so the Common Core is based off of E.D. Hirsch as well. So if you've heard of the Common Core, it's actually really not that scary or problematic. I think it gets a bad rep for how teachers go about it. You have to be able to solve this math problem in this, way that you've never seen before. That's not really what, in my opinion, what E.D. Hirsch is trying to say. It's one way to solve a problem, but if you learn it a more traditional way, that's okay. In my opinion, as a teacher, I don't care how you get there, as long as you can kind of explain it to me and you got there and it works for everything, that's great. Okay, so let me do a screen share real quick here. So we're talking about setting up some goals. So you can have some goals here. So there's the Core Knowledge website. It's just coreknowledge.org. And there is, pretty much everything. There's free teaching materials right here. There are classroom resources. So, let's say your kid is really intrigued by ancient Egypt, you can go in here, you can download a whole unit. This is, again, it's free. There's, yeah, teacher guide. All of this is just available on PDF. It's free. Oh, whoops, I just realized. So you can go here, ancient Egypt. The whole thing is just free. And there's the whole teacher guide in here. How to set the stage. All of this stuff is available at coreknowledge.org. This is the, for grade 1. So they have everything up on this website by grade level. There's a student book for you. Download it for free. So this is one way to go about lesson planning, is, using these kind of resources to help guide you along, if you don't have the time, or just aren't confident enough yet, or maybe you are confident, you've set up some extra activities, but you just need, you want this reading for your kiddo. So everything in here is grade level, age appropriate. And so again, it's just coreknowledge.org. So this is the really quick and dirty way to just grab some lesson plans and start going. Okay. For me, when I homeschooled my kiddo, what I would do is, again, kind of come up with what your goal is. So how do I know what my goal is? So there's the TEKs, and the TEKs are real easy to, all this stuff is just, Google's your best friend here. So I'm going to Google, let's say I've got a second grader. So I'm going to Google TEKs second grade. Okay. So what gets pulled up here are essentially, if I'm doing the TEKs, are my goals. And so they have them broken down by grade level and subject area, all the core stuff. So on the same document here, they've got English language arts, they've got, your math, they have your science stuff, your social studies stuff. Do you have to follow your state standards? It depends on what state you're in. If, you're here in Texas, and you're homeschooling, you don't even really have to follow these, but these are based off of the Common Core, and the Common Core, again, is based off of E.D. Hirsch. So Texas goes a little wild and crazy, in my opinion, about, especially with social studies and expecting kids to know, it's like Texas, and so they want all these people to know every single thing about every single person, famous person in Texas. It to me, I don't think that the kids are going to remember this stuff for life, but you make that your own personal decision. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you an example of what I would do going through this. So I've got a second grader. I want to thematically integrate some lessons for them. So another resource I would use instead of the TEKs, if I don't want to, if they're seeming to be a bit, daunting here, I can go to, let's say I'm going to start with second grade, and I want to go to national. Okay, so the National Common Core is basically just standards that they've set up for the whole country. By this age, this kiddo should be able to have these skills and this knowledge. So they have a math one, they have a language arts one. So, let's say I'm, thinking, okay, well, I'll start maybe with language arts. So for second grade, reading literature, this is fiction stuff, and then reading informational text. So let's say my unit, I'm going to want to do both. So informational text here, grade 2, ask and answer questions as who, what, where, when, why, and how to demonstrate an understanding of key details in a text. So I'm going to say, okay, sure, that's going to be a goal. So I basically copy this. And what I also do is I'll have a list of all of the standards. Like I'll print this out even, and I can just check off once my kid is demonstrating. And we'll get into that in a second. But so if I'm going over here, I've already put some goals in here. I usually go with an Excel spreadsheet. I'm a spreadsheet person. I like those. So I'll go ahead. I'll put some goals in here. These are some TEKs that I picked up. Ask questions about organisms, objects. This was a science in the science section that I found. So I'm just deciding, you know, looking at this, usually I use social studies or science TEKs to sort of give me my inspiration for what I'm going to do, or I'm going to, again, you know, hit what's in E.D. Hirsch and what do they have, what are first graders or second graders, in this case, supposed to know about science. And so I'll kind of base a unit around that. So in here, this was ask questions about organisms, objects, and events during observations and investigations. So plan and conduct descriptive investigations. So let's say I want to get my kiddo out in the sunlight, so I'm going to take him for a hike. So I'll start to think, okay, well, what are things we can observe on a hike? We could look at plants, we could look at different types of leaves on plants, we could look at insects. We could try to see what animals, and we want to record all of our observations about them. So we will go out and we will do this. So let's focus on, you know, insects. So ask questions about organisms. So I'll always start something with the idea of, again, what are my goals here? Then I want to think about how are they going to prove it to me. So in teacher speak, you know, when you're getting your credential and you're having to write formal lesson plans, this is really called your objective. So your objective here has to be something that your child can demonstrate that they can do by the end. So that gets into kind of assessment here. So before I really get into the nitty-gritty, I want to think, what's my output going to be? What's that going to look like? How is my kiddo going to demonstrate that they know and they have now the skills that they were supposed to learn? So for me, maybe my goal would be like that they would demonstrate, oh, sorry, hello, caps lock. Demonstrate the ability to make observations through, and then you want to say how. So through discussion, in writing, they can independently and and create a graph. So these are all things in second grade standards. If I went back to the TEKs or the Common Core, I would find this stuff in there. There's stuff like in second grade, you know, counting by tens or things like that. So I can really try to think about how I could integrate bugs into all of this. So what are we going to do when we go? So now I'm ready to kind of go and fill in the details. So I'm going to, you know, I have my child, you know, draw if they're into drawing, or, you know, maybe not, they can photograph, but draw and, you know, record observations about the things that or not things, rather the insects that they see. So that'll hit ask questions about organisms. So yeah, help discuss what we see and have them generate questions about the insects we see, conduct probably some further research. I'm sure that we'll see bugs that, you know, maybe neither of us know what they are. So conduct research about them. Maybe we're going to go on the internet for that. Using scientific tools. So, you know, I'm going to try and I'll tell you about all this in a second, but, you know, maybe measure insects with a ruler. Maybe look at insects under a slide. Hope, I mean, we wouldn't kill any, but, you know, any dead insects we find. So, and, you know, we're going to maybe make a table of our observations, and then maybe we will make a table where my child will do that independently. So, so that's basically how I do it. Then I'll think, okay, well, you know, this kind of covers the math and science, so we need to do some reading about it. So whenever I'm looking for age-appropriate material, or rather reading level appropriate, you know, material too, again, Google is my, you know, best friend, and I can go online and just do type, you know, second grade books about insects. And, you know, there we go. I've got, you know, literature and nonfiction reading. So, and I can just either buy the books or find them in my library, and there I go. So I've now, you know, put in there math. I've integrated my math with my science with my reading. And I'll do another video about reading. That's a whole other story as far as, you know, getting all this going. I can also incorporate writing into this, because obviously, you know, as we're recording the details of the bugs that we're finding, my kiddo is writing. We can write a story, a narrative fiction piece about a bug. So there are a million different ways that you can thematically integrate all of these things under just the topic of insect. To me, having, you know, a math worksheet with just a bug in the corner is not real thematic integration. If you're going to integrate it, you know, it really should be, let's add all the legs that we've seen today, all the little insect legs, or, you know, if I have, you know, if this bug has, you know, this many different parts of its body, how many plus that, how many total do I have? So I can make word problems out of it. So really this is just, you know, if you're brave of heart and you're willing to dive in and try this, you know, this is how you go about it. One piece of advice though, I don't like to spoon feed everything to my students. And so I like, the more you can get kids to think that everything you're doing is their idea, the better. So I actually start out pretty, in a pretty Socratic way when introducing a lesson. I ask them questions. You know, hey, we're going to go on a hike today. What do you think we're going to see? You know, cool. And let them kind of guide you along the way too. And you'll hopefully know what their interests are as well. You know, so what do you think about what we're seeing? How can we remember it? Could we draw a picture of that bug? You know, okay, great. Let's, you know, do that. How do you think we should go about keeping track of the number of bugs that we've seen and the colors that they are? You know, they figure out a way? You know, maybe they can. Maybe you can say, hey, this is how I would do it, and you can show them a table. So, you know, show them different ways to record data. You know, hey, we want to, you know, make really careful observations. You know, here are some tools we could do. And, you know, you could have the ruler out. You could have a magnifying glass, you know, have tools and let them pick which tool. So as much as you can make them feel like they've got control over the situation, I think the better they'll be more into it and more motivated and engaged, instead of you just saying, okay, here's the ruler, use it. You know, you can let them sort of, you know, explore a bit, and model for them and say, you know what, oh, okay, you're bringing the magnifying glass. I want to bring the ruler. I want to see. So I'm going to use the ruler. And then they can just watch you do it. And then, you know, you can be like, oh, do you want to give it a try? So that way, again, they're not feeling like you're forcing all this stuff on them, like they've got a choice in the matter. So the more you can do that, I think the better. So that is, you know, that's basically it. Just, I guess, finally, just with the assessment, you know, it's up to you, and you know your child best, how you want to do it. You know, maybe you want to give them a quiz on it, and you know, maybe you've been learning some insect vocabulary, or some just general vocabulary. Again, the Common Core, there's Dolch sight words. You know, maybe you're giving them a little reading quiz. You know, it's up to you how you want to do it, how, you know, formally or informally you want to do it. My recommendation, I don't like stressing kids out, so I'm a little sneaky about my assessments. So, you know, oh, hey, I just noted this, you know, notice this. Do you think you could make a table about it? And not act like, okay, here's your test. I think occasionally doing that, like, okay, here's your test, is fine, because eventually they are going to need to know how to take a test. If, you know, you're planning on sending them to college at some point, they've got to take their SATs. They're maybe going to transfer to a, you know, regular school situation. So, you know, every once in a while, you know, giving them a test, I think is good, or a quiz. I called them for a long time with my kids, I called them check boxes. I'm just doing a checkbox to make sure we can tick that skill that you're supposed to know off on our list here. So a lot of schools do, you know, like learning journals, or they just have a composition book, and it's like, oh, okay, here's the thing on the list that we're supposed to do. Can you show that to me? So up to you, really, on how you want to do it. But again, you want to just, you know, start out with what you want them to learn, and pulling from, again, directly from an E.D. Hirsch book, and even doing the activities and readings and these is fine. If you know, want to go to the Common Core website, you know, that's fine. If you want to go to TEKs or whatever your state standards are, that's fine. So pick some, and then think about, you know, what is the end result? What is the product I want? And then you go through and you think about the activity you could do to get there. I like thematic integration because it just makes everything just sort of gel in their brains. Everything is connected, and you know, studies shown it's gonna be retained better if they can make connections across subject areas. So always a good idea for that. If you have any questions or want any extra support, that's fine. A lot of you have my can PM me on Messenger. Those of you that are watching this that can't, you can always contact me through my school, huntingtonsurrey.org. info@huntingtonsurrey.org, and just say that, you know, you watched one of these videos and you had some questions. So I'm hoping this was helpful to you guys, and I am hoping that you all have a really great day.